So I've got my 4 different variations, but they're all in these lots and lots of pieces representing one object. So what we need to do now is join them together. We want to make sure we're looking at one variation set at a time. This is one reason why using collections can be a really great organizational tool to make sure you're doing that. So I'm going to select any object inside of that collection for this variation, and then I'll press A on the keyboard and Control J. Okay, that's going to join these together. And you can see if we click on it now and go to edit mode, we're getting all of the options for our different geometry with that edit select. Now, if you decide you didn't mean to join some of these objects together, that's okay too. We can press tab, and if you find the area you didn't want to join in, you can get near it. You can click on it once in any selection mode, vertex, edge, or face, and you can press L on the keyboard. Okay, or wherever your cursor is, you can press L. Let's select this big one that we didn't want to join the rest of our object. With it selected, we can press P on the keyboard, and you see we can separate by several different things: selection, material, or loose parts. If we separated by loose parts, you see it would deconstruct the entire plant, and that's okay. We can simply bring it back together, going back to object mode, selecting one, selecting all, Control J. Let's go back into edit mode and select that big leaf and hit P on the keyboard. And now we're going to say separate by selection, and you can see over here in the collection we've been given 2 objects. And if we go back to object mode, we can see we've got this part of our foliage and then this separate part that now we can remove. Now I do want them all together, so I'm going to select them all and join them back together with Control J. Now, before we move on to the other pieces, I want to set some things up and really standardize how our objects are going to behave once they're imported into Unreal. So that has a lot to do with their position in relationship to the world origin. So right now we can see we're kind of sunk beneath the world origin. So let's look at this from a front, side, left, right view. It doesn't matter. Something looking at it from the side. And since we have our whole object joined, we can click anywhere on this and press G on the keyboard or move up with the gizmo. We kind of want it just touching the ground. It's okay if some of it dips below. These are going to be in the ground, so it's better they're here than up here. Okay, we want them somewhat in the ground. And let's also check from the other side that they're centered. Okay, we want them to be centered kind of close to the intersection here between X and Z, or here between Y and Z. It's decently centered. And now let's reset our 3D cursor. If you haven't already, hold down Shift S, cursor to world origin. Let's right click on our object, set origin to 3D cursor. Okay, so now our 0 point, our origin of this object is set to the world origin. We want to make sure we do that for all the objects. So we'll come back through. I'm going to join all of these. Move this in relationship to the world origin that we want to be at. And our cursor is already at the world origin, so we're going to set origin to 3D cursor. And our next variation, select one of the objects, select everything, Control J. Look at it from 2 sides. You can see this one needs to come way over. And right click, set origin, 3D cursor. Last but not least, this little odd one. Select one first, then select them all. Control J. Zoom on in. Maybe I do want this one to have some lean to it. Okay, move it on over. Right click on it, origin to 3D cursor. Okay, and now if we turn all of our variations of our foliage on, you can see they're all taking up one space. That's ultimately how we're going to want to export them. But as you're working, it might make sense for you to look at these side by side, and that's okay. I had already stacked them on or near the world origin, but it's a good idea to look at these in relationship to each other You know, what's the variation? What is the kind of story being told? So let's bring these all back to the world origin 0, 0, 0. Because when we export them, we do want them to all be set at 0, 0, 0, as well as their origin being set up there too. After we've got all of our variations joined up and with their origin set, I'm going to go ahead and label these objects inside of their collections, because when we export these, we're going to want to make sure that information carries through. So next we're going to prep these for export for Unreal Engine, which will include some vertex painting to get ready for these to blow in the wind.